Good day, everyone, wherever you are in the world. I'm Tahira Worrell, and I'm so honored to be sharing this space with you at Edu361 Expo by EduVerse. Now, I know you're here because you care deeply about education and innovation and about your students, but today we're turning that care inward. This is about becoming more present and more grounded, not just as an educator, but as a human being because before the lesson plan and the outcomes and the apps and the grading, there's you, and you are so much more important than all of those things. So you've heard it on every flight. Put your oxygen mask on before assisting others. We understand this when we are flying 30,000 feet in the air, but what about when we're on the ground dealing with 25 or more little people who are depending on us in the classroom? We absolutely would not dream of allowing a child to go without air, but many of us are teaching from a place where we have no air left in our lungs, and we're doing this every day in and day out, and we're giving all the time without ever receiving. So just remember that the oxygen mask principle is not just for airplanes, it is for the classroom as well. Right now, as I speak with you, 44% of teachers report feeling stressed almost every single day. That is nearly half of all teachers walking into the classrooms already carrying the weight of burnout before they say good morning to their students. This this is a personal issue, but it is also a professional issue because how we feel in the classroom has an impact on the way that we teach and the way that we interact with the children. It has a ripple effect and affects every child that we do serve. Now, I remember a few weeks ago, I got a call from a friend of mine. He's a teacher, and he called me during his lunch break. His voice was shaking, and he said to me, Tahira, I just had to leave the compound. I couldn't be there anymore. I really do love these children, but I need to decompress. I just need someone to talk to. And that moment was a bit of a wake up call for me because it reminded me that we're taught to care for our students, but sometimes that comes at the cost of sacrificing ourselves. But it also made me think, what if the most caring thing that we could do as teachers is to care for ourselves first? What if our well-being isn't separate from our teaching? What if our well-being is our teaching, the way that we show up, our tone of voice, our body language, our state of mind? Isn't that where we teach from? It's us. We teach from within us, not just what is on the curriculum or what's on the lesson plan. And that is where the care framework comes in. So the care framework was developed as a way to help us kind of check in with ourselves and make sure that we're on the right track and taking care of us. And so I share this with all of the teachers that I work with. Even before talking about lesson plans and IEPs and outcomes and even our students, we have to ask ourselves, how am I feeling? What is guiding me? What is going on within me at this moment? They see in the care framework as a question, am I showing up out of obligation or connection? When is the last time that you checked in on yourself before you checked in on everyone else? one of the most important things is recognizing where a change needs to occur, because if you're not aware, then you can't make the adjustment. So this is about giving yourself permission to slow down and become more emotionally present before you respond to the world, and asking yourself, what emotions are coming up for me? Because if you're not clear on how you feel, then no matter how much planning you do, it will result in you still feeling unsettled. And it also causes us to lose sight of why we're teaching, and it becomes a matter of performing as opposed to having a connection with yourself and your students. So I just want to have a 1 minute exercise where you take some time to check in with you and ask yourself how it is that you are really feeling. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer. 76%. That is more than 3/4 of educators who report feeling emotionally drained. Many of us are operating from a place of depletion and not alignment, and we are just going through the motions. We meet the expectations, but somewhere along the way, we have lost touch with ourselves and the reason why we even entered teaching in the first place. And when we disconnect from our purpose, we start reacting from a place of pressure instead of responding from a place of peace and alignment and happiness. Before you can guide others, you must know where you stand. We as teachers are constantly asked to lead and to hold space and model, but how often do we really ask, where am I and what do I need? And these check-ins offer clarity, and they're really your foundation. So if you want to go a little bit further than the 1 minute check-in that we would have just done, there is a 3-minute check-in. This 3-minute check-in is something that you can do every morning before you handle emails and the children, before you have your breakfast. You can ask yourself these 3 questions. What am I feeling? What do I need? And what can I let go of today? Because when you tune in with yourself before the chaos of the day begins, then you start to teach from a place of clarity and not just coping and going through the motions. So this 3 minutes is not just restricted to mornings. You can use this at any time when you start to feel overwhelmed. The truth is that many of us are living by I should. I should be more patient. I should stay late. I should just push through. But should tends to be the voice of external pressure. And we need to be able to shift from I should to I am. I am allowed to have needs. I'm allowed to serve, or I'm here to serve without sacrificing myself. And when you live in alignment with your values, as opposed to the expectations, your energy will flow differently and your teaching will become lighter and easier. I want to take a moment to share with you a difficult moment in my career as a preschool owner. I had to let go of a teacher. She was a really good teacher, but she hit a child who she said had hit her first. And at the time, it wasn't, I was really upset. I wasn't able to see it for what it could have been. And not that I'm making excuses, but in retrospect, I was thinking that she was maybe burnt out. Maybe she was overwhelmed and felt as though she didn't have support. And emotionally, she was just tapped out. And I recognized as I looked back that what she needed at that time was not to be punished, but maybe all she needed was the opportunity to pause and a chance to check in. We really cannot wait until we're drowning to start asking for help. I think it would be really great if we normalized saying, I need some support before we reach our breaking point. Kind of like what my friend did when he called and said, I just need someone to talk to. Having that sense of community and having someone you can rely on to share and express yourself during those difficult times can make the world of difference. Beyond happy or sad, how often have you asked a student how they feel and they say good or bad, and that's it? And we do the same thing as adults too. I'm fine. I'm tired. I'm okay, just busy. But the truth is that many of us were never really taught the language to express our deeper emotional experiences. And without language, it is hard to process, communicate, or regulate what it is that we're actually feeling. So I want to share something you can use for yourself and share with your students as well. Unfortunately, we live in a world that often rushes us past what we're feeling, and especially as teachers, we're expected to be in a good mood all the time, calm and composed and positive, even during those times when we're carrying stress or burnout under the surface. And our students are learning how to navigate complex emotions too, but many of them lack the vocabulary to say what it is that is really going on. So it comes out in other ways, like withdrawal or frustration, or even restlessness and behavioral outbursts. But what we can do as the teachers who are responsible for them is to offer them the vocabulary that they need to be able to express what it is that they're feeling. And what would life look like if we made emotional expression a part of our daily culture in the classroom? This is where the beyond the happy or sad emotions chart would come in. And this is just a simple visual that groups emotions into two categories, so pleasant and unpleasant. And it helps to expand the language of the feelings that we're having beyond the basics of happy and sad. So instead of feeling bad, a child or an adult might realize that they actually feel disappointed or left out or overwhelmed or nervous. Or instead of saying I feel good, they might say I feel proud or I feel peaceful, hopeful, energetic. And the chart doesn't just help you name the feeling, it opens the door to a greater understanding. And when you understand each other, then you're more likely to respond with compassion, both towards yourself and towards others. So you can create a chart like this and place it in your classroom or even near your desk or This can be part, depending on the age group, this can be part of a student's journal, and it can go maybe on the inside cover of a notebook. So a simple activity that you can try, and that will just take a few minutes each day, is to ask yourself and your students to answer the question, or to fill in the blanks in the statement. Today I feel blank because blank. And you can do this during morning circle time or as a warm up before you start your journals, if you guys do journaling, or even as a part of your exit routine for your classroom. If you want, you can also use color-coded clothespins or sticky notes or even digital start charts, whatever works best for your classroom. And what you will notice over time is that students begin to slow down before they react. You will start to see changes in the energy of the classroom, and you'll be able to support children before the emotions spiral and get out of control. And most importantly, you will give your students permission to feel and share their feelings without fear of punishment or criticism. Language gives us power, and when we offer our children the words to name what they feel, they're not just managing we're not just managing the behavior, we're also teaching them emotional intelligence. And when educators practice this for themselves, we are able to stop internalizing or suppressing our own emotions, and we begin to model what emotional resilience looks like. So the next time someone asks you, how are you feeling? Pause and go beyond the fine or tired or okay, and show your students what it looks like to actually know and express yourself, because this is what emotional literacy is demonstrating that self-awareness and allowing us to heal or even avoid situations that may require healing. The second pillar of the care framework is accept your humanity, because at the end of the day, although educators are expected to always be calm and consistent and patient and in control, we are not robots. We're still human. And being human is not one of those things that we should have to hide. It is actually our greatest asset as teachers. You are more than just a teacher. You're more than just your role or your position. You're a whole person, and you bring that whole person to you every day when you go into your school. Ask yourself, what are my personal values, not just my professional ones? And what makes my presence unique or uniquely impactful? Who am I outside of the role as teacher? So let's take 2 minutes to reflect on, what do I bring to my classroom that can't be taught from a textbook? It is easy for teachers to feel invisible behind the curriculum and the checklist. But when we're able to accept ourselves and remember our voice and stand on our values with confidence and boundaries, then our happiness is able to be restored. Did you know that 67% of teachers struggle with perfectionism? Myself included at one point. We're not just trying to get it right, we are trying to be everything for everyone and show up with a smile and always maintain our composure, respond to all the emails, and basically be available at all times. But perfectionism is not what makes us better teachers. It just has an effect of making us less flexible. And the worst part about it is that it teaches our students that It's not okay to make mistakes, and getting it wrong sometimes is something to be disappointed about. What if the thing your students needed the most was for you to show up in all of your humanity, just modeling for them what emotional wellness actually looks like by being able to name your emotions, set boundaries, admit your mistakes? This is the type of environment that would turn a classroom into a community when a teacher is able to lead from the heart through kindness and empathy and laughter, being able to offer grace. It signals to the child that they matter and that they belong there, and it transforms the classroom into more of a sanctuary and can make it feel like more of a safe space that allows the children to grow. It also softens the authority that naturally comes with being a teacher when they see us showing up authentically. Children, especially our littlest ones, don't learn from what we say, but from who we are and what they see. So, a teacher who shows up honestly with patience and is present and pays attention and listens to them can become more of a guide and someone that they can trust. It also helps the lesson to land in a different way. So I'm sure that we've all heard the saying that they won't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And that definitely applies to the classroom setting. It won't matter so much what grade they got on a spelling test or a worksheet that they completed, but how did they feel during that process? Did they feel understood in the classroom? Did they feel encouraged or inspired? Our humanity holds space for what we teach to not just be memorized, but for it to be felt. And another thing that our humanity does is it brings the real world into the classroom. So when a teacher is able to infuse lessons with culture and storytelling and emotions, it brings a certain level of relevance because children are able to see themselves in the learning, and it helps the children to be able to connect the dots between what they're being taught in the classroom and their own lived experience, or even the lived experience of someone else. In particular, the teacher, if you're able to share examples. It also creates room for children to fail and try again because growth can get messy, and children need to know that that is okay, that it's okay to make mistakes. And when a teacher is not so quick to offer criticism but can meet them with compassion, it allows them to explore the world, explore who they are, interact with other people, make mistakes, fall down, get back up again with their dignity intact, because a teacher who allows their students to make mistakes says to them, you're in a safe place and it's okay even if you don't get it right the first time because I'm here and I'm here for you. Our humanity also teaches beyond the curriculum. So children are always watching, especially how we respond to pressure. They're watching how we hold our boundaries and how we show who we are. These aspects become part of the unspoken curriculum. It teaches these quiet lessons on how to be kind and how to listen, and basically how to function in the world with others. So, yes, standards matter and structure matters, but without humanity, we really lose a part of ourselves and lose a part of the magic that we can bring into a classroom. Humanity is the bridge between the adult and the child, um, between information and transformation. And it is what turns classrooms into a space that a teacher has built, a space of community and and safety. Now, this topic of embracing childhood healing might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it is a necessary question that we have to ask ourselves. When we turn up in the classroom, are our own childhood triggers showing up? You might be reacting to your past without even realizing it. And many of us became teachers because we wanted to give children something that we didn't have. But sometimes the reality is that our unhealed experiences can show up in the classroom. A child's defiance might trigger us, not necessarily because it is disruptive, but because it reminds us of the punishment that we might have received for speaking up. Another teacher might be overprotective of a student, not because the child is in danger, but because they themselves may have felt abandoned. So when you're able to accept your history and your triggers and your wounds, and you can finally integrate the past with the present, it allows you to show up in your classroom in a healthier, more positive way for your students. I work with so many teachers who, when we dig deeper, realize that they wanted to become an educator because they wanted to give something that they themselves had not received. So, most often, it would be one of three things, which would be a sense of safety, a space where they feel encouraged, or patience. But we cannot give those things to our students if we're operating from a place of depletion or denial. So when you're able to accept who you are, where you came from, the experiences that shaped you, again, from a place of compassion and not criticism or judgment, then it changes how we show up in our classroom. So let's rewrite our internal script. I guarantee you that no one expects you to be a perfect teacher, but it is important to be one who's able to celebrate progress over perfection, and not, did I do it all, but did I show up from a place of alignment of who I really want to be? And when you do, that is enough. The third pillar of the care framework is something that many of us have been taught to feel guilty about. And the R stands for replenish. Replenish your reserves. And there really is nothing to feel guilty about, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot give yourself oxygen from an empty oxygen tank or an oxygen tank that is running on fumes. When we do this, operate from running on fumes or running on empty, we are showing up pretending that we're dedicated when we're really actually depleted, and this does not serve us. Self-care is strategic, and sometimes it needs to be scheduled in. Like, you may actually need to open up your calendar and schedule a day for some self-care. 58% of teachers are working more than 50 hours a week. Unfortunately, we've come to normalize exhaustion as a sign of commitment. And I have a question for you. If a child were to work 12 hours a day, skip meals, hardly rest, would we call that healthy? We absolutely would not. So why are we doing that to ourselves? Somewhere along the line, self-care started to be treated as though it was something luxurious. Things like bubble baths and brunch. But this is not even what I'm talking about. The self-care that I'm referring to is trauma-informed and compassionate, and it shifts the focus from what is wrong with you to what happened to you. It is establishing standards and being able to set boundaries, protecting your peace as if your paycheck depended on it, which in many ways it does. Because self-care is how we sustain the emotional labor of the work that we do in the classroom every day. Self-care encompasses everything from mindfulness tools to peer support groups or having a trusted friend that you can call in those moments when you feel overwhelmed. And it can also be using self-inventory and self-check-in practices. A simple self-care exercise you can do is to create a sacred no list, because replenishment isn't just about what you add, it's also about what you remove. You can curate a short, non-negotiable list of things that you will no longer entertain during your work week. And your sacred list could look like not responding to emails after 5 p.m. It could look like not over explaining your boundaries. And you can also just keep the list on your desk or inside your planner, and it will act like a bit of a security system that protects you against doing the things that drain you. In addition to your sacred no's, you can also have a creative outlet just for you outside of your teaching. Teaching is a calling, but it must never become your entire identity, because I find that educators pour so much of themselves into their classrooms that they start to forget the parts of themselves that existed before their profession. So I'm encouraging you to reclaim a space in your life that is just for you. Think of it as giving yourself the freedom to express and explore another side of yourself. So maybe it could mean making use of an old sketch pad or buying some ingredients for new recipes that you want to try. Starting a small garden box, maybe getting a jewelry making kit or buying some mystery novels and your favorite tea. The key is that whatever you choose should have absolutely nothing to do with your job. It is just something that should remind you that your creativity is yours first and not something that you should feel obligated to use to serve others. When you carve out time to honor your creative self, you replenish a part of you that your job just can't touch. And you become a fuller version of yourself again. And ironically, that fullness spills right back into your teaching in the most beautiful way, so that you can show up authentic, energized, and inspired. You don't need a burnt out version of yourself, and neither do your students, because you deserve a version of you, and they deserve a version of you that is relaxed and able to function well. Creativity allows us to express ourselves and our emotions in ways that our jobs don't always allow. So I want you to start thinking about your energy like a bank account. Everything that you do is either a withdrawal or a deposit. A happy moment with students, that would be a deposit. That third meeting, that could have been an email, a withdrawal. So what drains you and what restores you? When we track our energy like this, then we can make better choices about how we spend our time and our resources and how we protect our energy. And it makes it easier for us to say no to the things that drain us and yes to the things that fill us up. Another simple practice that you can use is a trigger tracker. And step one would be noticing when you feel activated and being able to pause, which is step two, and take a few deep breaths or remove yourself from the environment if that is at all possible. Step three is to reflect, and this means asking yourself the question, am I reacting based on what is happening now or from something that happened in the past? And step four is to reset with intention and ask yourself in the moment, what is the next best action for me to take? One teacher I worked with came to me feeling absolutely defeated. She said to me, I cannot get these children under control. Nothing is working. But what we realized together was that the challenges she experienced were never really actually about the children. It was about her own unresolved childhood challenges surrounding relationships and authority and boundaries. So when she started healing herself, then her entire classroom was able to change. Because when we heal, we're able to model better, and by default, we can manage our classrooms better. The final pillar of the care framework is where everything comes full circle. This is about embracing your impact. And so often we focus on what is not working, but your impact is not just about what you teach, but how you show up. Be the example to other teachers of what it means to reconnect with their sense of purpose. The way that you speak and the energy you bring to your school environment will give others permission to feel safe and will create an environment based on trust, and your happiness will be contagious. And I can say that from a place of experience because when I was able to do my own inner work, the people around me were asking me, what is it that you're doing? Whatever it is that you're doing, show me how to do it because I see a change in you, and I want to feel the way that you're feeling. I want to move in the world the way that you're moving. And that is actually what led me to start the work that I'm doing now. The fact that other people saw a change in me, I said, okay, well, this is something that would definitely be able to help other people as well. 20% of improvement in student outcomes comes from teacher well-being. So this is not from new curriculum or gadgets or apps or technology. This is basically from teachers feeling well. This is a groundwork. And your well-being is not separate from your teaching. It is your teaching. Your emotional state sets the tone. There's a research paper that was issued in 2023 by Aldrup Karstensen and Klausman entitled The Role of Teachers' Emotion Regulation in Teaching Effectiveness, a systemic review of integrating 4 lines of research. So this study showed that teachers' emotional state significantly impacted student outcomes. So when you're emotionally supported, students are more engaged, they're more resilient, they're more successful, and this ripple effect of your mental and emotional wellness flows through you and into every child that you teach. Here's a journal prompt that you can use. How did my well-being show up in my teaching? So maybe you had more patience, maybe you caught yourself before you had a reactive moment. Maybe you smiled a little bit more. Track those things because it is those small shifts that are evidence of the impact that you're making. So reflect for a moment and think, what legacy do I want to leave, not just as a teacher, but as a person? The legacy that you have decided to leave is going to be revealed inevitably through the interactions that you have with those closest to you, with those in your community, in your classroom, and maybe even across the world. So here's a quick recap of the care practice. Care is about bringing more presence and more you to what you already do. So whether you try this once a week or every day, you can take 2 minutes to check in with yourself and gain some clarity on what your intentions are. You can take a minute to pause and accept who you are and how you're feeling. You can do one small act to replenish, whether it is looking at the things that light you up and making a conscious effort to schedule those things in over the weekend or in the evening, or even if it is just recapping your sacred notes. You can reflect for 2 minutes on how you can make an impact or how you have made an impact already. So that's all that it takes, 8 minutes. And you can even try care for 7 days and notice what shifts within that 1 week. Notice how you feel about Monday mornings. Notice how your students respond simply because you're being more aligned with who you are. I hope that today can be the turning of a new page for you, more like a blank slate where you can give some attention not just to what is going wrong, but to the things that are already going right and the things that you're doing well, and see where you can make some improvements. And just know that this is just the beginning. If something's starting you today, this is just the beginning of you being more amazingly and wonderfully you. You can find me at Self Discovery Headquarters, and my work is not about fixing teachers or fixing things that are broken, but it's about supporting human beings who happen to be teachers. And if today reminded you that you're worthy of care, then I've done my job. And I want to thank you for caring for your students, and now finally caring for yourself.